Over dinner, I said. Tell me the date for the reunion. My brother snapped, You're not family. Don't come. Everyone at the table burst out laughing. I quietly left. For days later, their loan payment bounced. I texted, Not family, not paying. 2 days later, there was an angry knock at my door. I got so angry I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. Not the kind of anger that fades after a good cry, but the kind that settles deep inside you and rewrites everything you thought you knew. That week, I finally understood what my grandmother had warned me about. She used to tell me, You can't make cold people warm by giving them more of your fire. I never listened. I kept showing up, paying for things, trying to hold everyone together. I thought love was earned through effort. But sitting alone those nights, I realized all I'd been doing was funding people who wouldn't cross the street for me. For years, I'd been the family fixer, the dependable one. When my parents needed help with rent, I transferred money without hesitation. When Derek's business venture needed seed money, I gave him $15,000 from my savings. No paperwork, no pressure. When they planned vacations and forgot to invite me, I'd still send them money for gas or food. I thought that was what family did for each other. But the truth was, they didn't see me as family, just as a safety net. I'd been biting my tongue for months, holding back resentment every time my mother called Derek her miracle child, or when my father bragged about Derek's so-called company while ignoring my own promotion at work. Every time I brought up something that mattered to me, they'd change the subject to Derek's latest problem. The breaking point came at that Sunday dinner. It was supposed to be a family night. I brought homemade lasagna, garlic bread, a bottle of good wine. My mom barely acknowledged it before saying Derek had brought real food, takeout wings, and cold fries. They laughed like it was a joke I should find funny. I tried to brush it off, told myself to keep the peace. But when the conversation shifted to the upcoming family reunion, I noticed something. Everyone was talking about flights, hotels, group chats, all of which I wasn't part of. So, I asked calmly, I thought, Let me know the date for the reunion. I'll book my ticket early this time. Derek smirked without even looking up. You're not family. Don't show up. The table erupted in laughter. My father slapped his knee. My mother tried to hide a smile. I just stared at them, waiting for someone, anyone, to say it was too far. No one did. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and left. No scene, no shouting, just silence and a kind of clarity I'd never felt before. For days passed without a single text or call. Not one person from that table reached out. Not to check on me, not to apologize, nothing. Then Derek texted like nothing had happened. Hey, weird question. Did your bank maybe block the transfer? The loan payment didn't go through. I read it twice, then 3 times. My hands didn't shake. I just typed 4 words. Not family, not funded. And I blocked his number. For the first time in my life, it felt like peace. That peace didn't last long. The next morning, before sunrise, there was a furious knock at my door. It started as a few hard bangs, then escalated to full-on pounding over and over until the walls vibrated. I didn't even have to look. I knew who it was. The thing about changing is that the people who benefited from the old, you always take it personally. And I was about to find out just how personal it could get. I didn't open the door. I let them bang on it like they owned the place, like they had the right to demand something from me. After everything, eventually the pounding stopped. I stood by the kitchen window, sipping my tea, watching the porch. 10 minutes later, a silver SUV pulled away from the curb. My dad's car, then came the calls. First from my mom's phone, then my dad's. I ignored both. No voicemails, just missed calls piling up like they were trying to scare me into responding. An hour later, a new number. Then another. I stopped looking until one message caught my eye. This is serious. We need to talk. Who is Derek? Of course. A few minutes after that, a long text from his girlfriend, Carly. I'd met her twice. She sent this overly sweet paragraph about how Derek was under an incredible amount of pressure right now and how she hoped I could find it in my heart to be reasonable. Reasonable. It always comes back to that word when people can't manipulate you anymore. They want you to be reasonable, so you go back to being useful. That's what I'd been to them. Useful. I didn't respond. Instead, I packed an overnight bag and drove to my grandmother's house. She lived just outside of town in this quiet little place she called her retreat from the circus. The second she saw me at the door, she opened it without a word and just said, "Took you long enough." She had soup on the stove before I could even sit down. We didn't talk right away. She handed me a bowl, and I ate like I hadn't eaten in days. When I finally told her what happened, the dinner, the laughter, the text, the door pounding, she didn't look shocked at all. She just said, "They've always taken you for granted. This is what people do when the well dries up." Then she said something else, something that stayed with me. "The first time you say no to people who've lived off your yes, they act like you've changed. But really, you're just finally seeing things clearly." That night, I slept better than I had in a week. No calls, no guilt, just silence and soup. When I got home the next morning, there was an envelope on my doorstep. No name, no return address, just $400 in 20s stuffed into a plain white envelope, a peace offering, a guilt payment. I didn't know. I didn't care. I left it sitting there all day, then slid it into the trash. Later that evening, my dad finally called again. I let it ring. He called 3 more times. On the 4th, I answered. I didn't say hello, just asked one word. "Why?" He jumped into this long, rambling explanation about Derek's business being in a tight spot. How the missed payment messed up some kind of supplier deal. Now there were late fees, a frozen account, and serious consequences. I didn't say a word, just listened. Then he said, "Karen, it's not like we used you. You're taking this too personally." I hung up. That night, I pulled up my banking app and started going through every transaction from the last 2 years. Every time I bailed them out, every wire transfer, every food delivery ordered on my card, every emergency Venmo to Derek, even that $800 I gave my mom for a new washing machine that I found out later broke. It added up to just over $20,000. $20,000. I printed the statements, highlighted the transactions, and dropped them in a manila envelope. I mailed it to my parents' house with a sticky note on top that read, "This is who I've been. Ask yourself who you've been." Then I waited. For days of silence, and then like magic, everything changed. Derek sent flowers, not even good ones. Gas station bouquet. My mom left a voicemail saying she missed me and hoped I was okay. My dad emailed a scanned photo of me at age 9 with a handwritten note attached. "We're still a family, Karen." Now they remembered. Now they cared. But I had finally stopped hoping. Something inside me had closed. And for once, I wasn't interested in opening the door again. The shift came fast, too fast to be real. One week, I was being laughed at over dinner. The next thing I knew, they were treating me like some long-lost piece of the family puzzle. They probably thought I'd be flattered, that I'd fall for it, that I was still desperate enough to come running the moment they showed me a shred of attention. It started with the flowers, not even decent ones. A wilted grocery store bouquet left at my door, wrapped in the same cheap plastic they use for rotisserie chickens. No note, no explanation, just a half-hearted gesture. Then came the voicemails. The first was from my mom, her voice soft, saying she was worried about me, that things had gotten out of hand, and I should come over for lunch to talk. She acted like it was just a small misunderstanding, like we'd only argued over dinner rolls. I didn't reply. The second voicemail came a day later, her tone sharper. She started talking about Derek, how stressed he was, how tough things had been for him, how I should try to see his side. She said family 4 times in a minute. It felt rehearsed. The third voicemail hit just before midnight. She was crying, saying she didn't understand why I was being like this, asking if I still loved her. That one stung a bit. I still didn't call back. Then Derek made his move. He emailed me a spreadsheet titled Repayment Plan. No formal agreement, no signature, no dates, just a list of monthly amounts he supposedly planned to send starting next year. At the bottom, a note. "Let's move past this. We're family, right?" Family. That word again. The one he'd weaponized at dinner, like it was a gate I'd never passed through. I didn't respond. That Saturday, my mom texted, "Come for dinner. Just you. No drama. No pressure." I didn't go. By 8 p.m., Derek's text started. First, "You're being ridiculous." Then, "We were just joking. You're taking it too seriously." Finally, "You think you're better than us now." There it was, the truth. The resentment, the guilt they couldn't handle, so they tried to shove it back on me. I screenshotted everything, just in case. That night, I dug through my drawer and pulled out old bank statements, payment confirmations, Venmo receipts, everything. I highlighted every time I'd paid their bills, bailed out Derek, or sent money to help. About $20,000, give or take. Not that I expected it back, but I needed to see the number. I needed it to be real. The next morning, a letter arrived, in my dad's handwriting. No, I'm sorry to start. Instead, we've done so much for you. He wrote about how I'd always been taken care of, how Derek looked up to me, how every family has rough patches, and now wasn't the time to turn my back on them. Then came the real reason. Derek's business was barely hanging on. Without support soon, it would collapse. There was the ask, wrapped in guilt and nostalgia. At the end, he wrote, "We're having a gathering next month. Everyone wants you there. You belong with us." Suddenly, I belonged again. Suddenly, I was needed. But they didn't want me. They wanted the version of me who paid for their mistakes and smiled through it. That version was gone. I didn't reply to the letter, the next voicemail, or the random email from Carly a few days later, saying she hoped we could move forward and keep things positive. Positive. As if I just had a bad attitude and not a lifetime of being sidelined and used. As if the laughter at that dinner table was harmless. But they didn't get it. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom, and I was starting to love it. By the third week, their tone shifted again. No more fake apologies. They started acting like they were fine without me. Derek posted a slideshow of a backyard dinner. Everyone was there. My parents, my uncle and aunt, even cousins I hadn't heard from in years. My chair at the table, the one I'd sat in every holiday for as long as I could remember, was empty, clearly visible in 2 photos. A not-so-subtle jab. My mom commented, "Missing our girl tonight, red heart, come home soon." My dad liked every comment except mine, which just said, "Looks great." I was testing them, seeing if they wanted the version of me who stayed quiet and smiled through disrespect. They didn't want me back. Not really. They wanted the optics of me, the convenience of me. But I was done staying silent, done pretending shared DNA meant shared values. That week, I booked a trip to Asheville. Just me, a rental cabin in the mountains, no cell service. I hiked, journaled, slept in. For the first time in forever, I wasn't waiting for an apology or permission to sit at the table. I had my own table now, and peace tasted better than anything they'd ever served. I came back refreshed, calm, until the voicemail. It was from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, expecting more emotional bait. But it wasn't from my family. It was a law office, polite but direct, about a personal business loan in Derek's name. $10,000. He'd defaulted, and I was listed as a co-signer. I froze. I'd never signed anything. I called back immediately. The lawyer explained I was listed as a secondary guarantor with a digital signature. They sent the paperwork. My name was there, with a forged signature. Derek had used my name, trying to make it look legal. The lawyer said the signature wouldn't hold up, and I wouldn't be held responsible. But the fact that Derek had done this made me feel like a fool all over again. I found out my brother Derek forged my signature to take out loans, using me while pretending to be grateful. I froze my accounts, changed passwords, locked my credit, and sent a cease and desist letter to him and our parents. No one apologized, just silence. My mom sent a card with an old photo, pleading not to punish them for loving me poorly, but they still didn't get it. It wasn't about money. It was about years of being used, dismissed, and erased unless I gave something. My grandmother called, saying Mom was tired, missing me, and Dad was angry because I wouldn't fold. They weren't upset for hurting me. They were upset I stopped letting them. A family reunion invite came, with a letter from Dad claiming Derek would propose a repayment solution. They still thought it was about money. I didn't go. Derek's ex, Carly, called, saying he blamed me for his business failing and spiraling, but she saw I was the only adult in the family. Mom called, crying, apologizing quietly, missing me. I forgave her, but said I wouldn't attend the reunion. I sent a final letter listing the $20,000 I'd given, saying the debt was forgiven but not to expect me back. Then, silence. Weeks later, Grandma called. Dad was in the hospital with heart problems. Mom admitted the medical bills were high but didn't push when I refused to pay. Derek left a furious voicemail, blaming me, demanding help for Dad's medication. I sent one last note. I've made peace, but some doors stay closed because what's behind them burned down. No one replied. The reunion happened without me. Photos showed Derek faking smiles, Mom exhausted, Dad absent. I don't know if he recovered. I didn't ask. After years of being used and erased, I owe them nothing. Not time, not presence, just distance. It's not revenge, it's peace.